Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to our Destination Unlock webinar. It's really great that you could join us this afternoon. So OTT are running these Destination Unlock webinars really for you to have as much information as possible to learn about how a destination is going to welcome travellers going forward. And we're absolutely loving introducing the Antigua and Barbuda Tourism Authority, who have proactively decided that this is a great way to explain about their beautiful paradise islands and exactly how you can start sending your consumers, your travellers to them. So I'd first of all like to introduce the panel to you so you know who is talking. We have Colin James. He is the highly respected and professional Chief Executive Officer of the Antigua and Barbuda Tourism Authority. He's speaking all the way from Antigua today, so thank you very much. Good morning, in fact, to you, Colin. Certainly his energy and motivation have been critical in leading the country's marketing efforts since the inception of the Tourism Authority in 2009, and his strong leadership and team building, marketing and customer service skills, along with his knowledge of the industry, have helped to position Antigua and Barbuda on an upward trajectory in its tourism arrivals from the country's main source markets. So we really do welcome Colin James this morning. Thank you very much for joining us. I'd also like to introduce Cherie Aslan. She's the Director of Tourism UK and Europe. And Cherie has over 15 years of experience under her belt as a destination marketeer. She's become a familiar name in the tourism industry, not just in the UK, but across in Europe as well, and also in the Caribbean. In her current role, Cherie is responsible for strategic promotions in the UK as well as across Europe. And she's known for applying her creative way of thinking and her passion for standout activations. Her skills began to blossom when she actually completed her undergraduate degree in tourism and human resource management, and also her master's in tourism and hospitality management in the late 90s. So we very much welcome Cherie. Cherie is also an active member of the board of directors of the CTO, the Caribbean Tourism Organization, and also was a board member of the Association of National Tourist Office Representations, otherwise known as ANTOR. Finally, I'd like to, well, not quite finally, there's one other person as well, but I would like to now introduce Patrice Simon. She is the Executive Director of Antigua and Barbuda Hotels and Tourism Association. Mrs. Patrice Simon has been working in the field of marketing for the last 15 years, and she's also worked in the fashion industry in New York as a marketing and finance assistant. Her journey began in hospitality in 2006 as a marketing executive with the Jolly Beach Resort and Spa, and I have been there, and it is a wonderful destination for a fantastic holiday right by the most beautiful Aqua Sea. She worked there and has worked in the hospitality sector for the last 7 years, with her role sort of moving onwards to Director of Global Marketing. So it's quite a sterling trajectory of a career there. And now she is actually working for the hospitality sector and the association since 2019, when she joined the Antigua and Barbuda Hotels and Tourism Association, assuming the role of Executive Director. So absolutely would love to welcome Patrice Simon. And finally, I'd like to welcome Joel Omari Henry, who is the Marketing Manager for the UK of the Antigua and Barbuda Tourism Association, and he's worked there for a staggering 12 years. Like, where has time gone, Joel? Absolutely amazing. So I'd like to welcome him too, and we have some behind the scenes people, Sean from Antigua and Barbuda Tourism Authority, and also Angelica from OTT, and they're both helping answer all of your questions. So do feel free to put information in the chat button and pop any questions into the Q&A, and the team will answer them as we go along. And also there may be some questions that the panel might answer as well live towards the end. So normally, if this was a seminar, we would be clapping away to this panel. So there's a clap. And now, without further ado, I'd like to ask Colin. So Colin, how important is the British holidaymaker to Antigua?
We really want to continue to build on that great relationship that Antigua and Barbuda has with the British traveling public. I mean, when you think of a destination that has so much in common with the UK, from Nelson's Dockyard to the place names like Piccadilly and Falmouth, the connection between the UK, not to mention cricket, and Sir Viv Richards, one of the cricketing legends of the world, that connection has always been strong. It's not a pretend connection. It's something that's close to our hearts, and because of that, we have always been a very, very welcoming destination and a very popular destination to the British traveling public. So we really want to continue to cement our place as a sailing mecca, as a place for families, as a place to get hitched, to get married. And I know the team, supported by the travel agents, does a remarkable job to really get the word out about our beautiful islands. And so we are excited that we're open. We're excited that visitors are returning, and we are waiting with bated breath for we were hoping that would be July when British Airways would have resumed. That was the original date given. But as of 2 days ago, they pushed that back to August. And I think that's all due to the British government still maintaining the 14-day home quarantine for everyone who gets back to the UK, and also the advisories that they are still telling folks not to travel. But we look forward to having a corridor, a safe travel corridor from the UK to Antigua by August, and then welcoming our British visitors back so that they can experience two of the most beautiful islands in the world.
Yes, that's absolutely wonderful. Yes, I know we're sort of just coming out of lockdown, and we're just sort of opening up shops and kind of getting back to a sort of sense of normality. But every week, sort of things develop and change, whether that's scientifically or just generally. And I think as we move forward, the government will be quite quick to sort out how we can all travel and get moving. But in the meantime, I think you probably could say, is it safe to book more going into the autumn?
Absolutely.
Which is a good season anyway to be going to Antigua, isn't it?
Yes, we have also hotels that are open now, but some who would normally have closed for the summer months when it's the low season have opted to stay closed and then to all reopen in October. So from October going into the winter season, all our hotel properties will be back online, refurbished and ready to go, ready to receive our visitors. And so by then as well, we will have air traffic return. But even now, we have an American Airlines flight that comes in daily that departs Miami very late in the evening, around 8, gets here like 11 p.m. And what that does, it also opens us up to everywhere. Because it's our first flight and we were the first Caribbean destination to open, people are just using that route to get into this region from Europe, from wherever. Because once you can get to Miami before 8 p.m. in the evening, even from London, from the UK, you can still travel into Antigua and Barbuda. So travel is still available now from Europe, although it's on a limited basis and having to travel via the United States. But we will look forward to the destination opening up in a much more phased approach. And that's the whole idea behind what the government has done, is that we have looked at the risk, and we were a country that depends, 65% of our GDP comes from tourism. A third of the people who work in this country work directly in the industry, and then not to mention the knock-on effect for the service industries that support tourism. So it was critical for us to get back to work and to get back to start earning an income and then living. And because we're so dependent on tourism, we realized that we'd have to do that in a phased approach so we're not overwhelmed, and do so in a manner that would not introduce any new COVID-19 cases. And so it would protect the health of the residents and the citizens here, but also ensure that the visitors who are coming to Antigua and Barbuda are also safe and they're also protected, and that they can still have a great holiday when they get here.
Absolutely. It is a real delicate balance, and you've handled the lockdown and managed to really ensure that a lot of your people have not managed to get this horrible bug. So that is absolutely to be congratulated. But then coming with, new people coming into the country, you probably need to make sure, we do need to make sure that, as you say, it's not going to cause problems. So what sort of measures have you put in place at the airports?
There's quite a number. I'll just give you a few of the destination measures, and then I'll dovetail a little bit into what happens at the airport, actually. So every passenger that's arriving in Barbuda must have a mask in their possession. I know the airlines are mandating that now. A lot of airlines are requiring you to have a mask, but you must have a mask. So as you disembark from the aircraft, you will be disembarking with your mask. I think the only exceptions to that are like small children, below a certain age. But once you are an able-bodied passenger, you will be required to wear a mask. Every passenger as well arriving in Antigua must complete a health declaration form, which will be issued to you by the airlines that you complete on board, similar to your landing card that you would normally fill out. And as you arrive in Antigua, you may undergo screening, and this takes a number of steps, such as temperature testing, which are done. You will be evaluated by port health authorities, who will be your first stop as you come down the escalator and you disembark from the jet bridges. Those will be the first folks that you will interact with, the port health authorities. And so you will be we will be ensuring that you are not a high risk passenger. For example, if you were found to have a high elevated temperature, and based on your questionnaires, then you are subject to either a swabbing at the airport, which takes place there and which will be tested later, and then you're sent off to immigration, customs, and then you disembark. You embark on your hotel trip with your transfers.
Oh.
What actually happens is that returning residents, citizens of Antigua and Barbuda, tend to be asked to be self-quarantine at home for 14 days, but visitors are swabbed, all visitors are swabbed, and you're notified of your test results within 48 hours. Within that time, you're asked to stay at the hotel, but once your test results are fine, then you can be free to move about and that you have tested negative for the virus. If you're a passenger that's arriving by a ferry or a yacht, all yachts must now clear into one central location in St. John's, and they're also subject to the guidelines by the health authorities, where they will be asked to quarantine on their yacht for certain days until that their test results may come back. As well, the country has gone through a remarkable process of training and education with all our hospitality properties, our tours and excursions, the training of our taxi drivers. So as you arrive in Antigua as well, you are required to take a cab that has been certified and trained to handle this whole sanitization process. So everything from baggage carousels to how your bags are handled goes through a very strict protocol of being sanitized and being cleansed on a regular basis, so that after the use by every passenger, so that we can mitigate any risk of any importation of the virus again into the country. Patrice will go into a little bit more detail about what obtains at the hotel, but every hotel had to be certified, their staff had to be trained before that they were certified to reopen post-COVID-19, and that they would be adhering to all the sanitization and the strict health and cleanliness protocols that are now in place. I think it's important that your guests realize as well, even on the flip side, when they're leaving Antigua and Barbuda, we have stopped anyone traveling to the airport and entering the terminal unless you're an employee or unless you're traveling. Because of the social distancing and the physical spacing, we ask our departing passengers to say your goodbyes at home or at the hotel, but unless you're traveling or you're an employee, you won't be allowed access into the terminal building in this first phase. It's all in an effort to manage the crowds and to ensure that we're properly socially distanced. You'll observe there will be sneeze guards at all the check-in counters. As much as possible, we're looking for a contactless and touchless interaction. As you come through customs on your way in, you know, they have lifted the sometimes routine inspection of physical luggage, and you'll be allowed to move straight through. As you hand off to your taxi drivers as well, you'll notice certain protocols will be in place for sanitizing of baggage and how they handle, and passengers as well. As you are swabbed and tested, you'll be required to sign a quarantine form, which will be given to your cab driver, which will authorize him to take you to the hotel that you have selected to go to. And that's where you will be staying for the 48 hours until you can get your test results. And after that, you're free to move about. So we have also limited, even in the taxis, the amount of passengers. If you are a single family unit, you can travel together. But other than that, no more than, say, a 15-seater vehicle. No more than maybe 2 or 3 passengers can travel in that vehicle together, so that there can be appropriate spacing between visitors. So we have done a whole series of protocols that have been implemented, and these have been driven by the Ministry of Health, Wellness, and the Environment. So they actually take into account what is required to ensure that above anything else, you are safe, and the people that live here remain safe, and that you have an enjoyable vacation. You are also asked, if you're in Antigua and Barbuda, to wear your mask when out in public. Again, inside the hotel properties, unless you're not, you don't have to wear your mask on the beach, but if you're interacting with the employees or with other guests, we ask that you wear your mask out of courtesy to the other person, and you'll observe everybody walks around in a mask, and we observe the social spacing, social distancing, because we, above anything else, we want to make sure that the people who are coming back to our destination are safe, and they also have a great experience while doing that. So that sort
Wow.
of sums up roughly what we are doing. We've been first. We've been getting a lot of reviews and a lot of kudos from a lot of people who came and experienced the process. And it's really, really testimony to the effort that has gone in by all the stakeholders on island, not just those who are in the tourism industry, but everybody from the unions to, you know, those who do tours and excursions, to the hotel sector. Everybody came together to ensure that we were put in the protocols that we could all buy into and that were effective and that would work well for us. And so far, apart from little hiccups here and there, as with any process, we have been able to manage it pretty well since we've opened up on the 1st of June.
That's incredible. There's a lot of detail that's gone into to think it all through. And I must say, if you're already practicing everybody wearing masks, that's much better than we're doing here. We're kind of just getting into that now and getting used to it, but it's not the majority, it's more the minority, is my observation. But I'm in the middle of London.
So a whole new industry, you know, you have everything from the national flag, you know,
that's good,
to the tourism logos, you name it, every bank, you know, all the companies now have it's a marketing tool. You can brand it.
Yeah. You walk around with it. I think we'll have OTT right in the middle as well at one point, I'm sure. So you mentioned that this was phase 1 and that you were thinking, you know, as it moves forward. And I know as science is uncovered and as more information is learnt, then you'll be constantly sort of tweaking and changing. But will there be a kind of marked phase 2? And if so, what does that phase 2 sort of look like that's a little bit different to phase 1?
Right now, we are still in curfew hours, and that was one of the reasons why you have to take an authorized taxi from the airport. You can't have anybody, a friend and family, is picking you up, for example, because there is a curfew that I think is extended to 11 p.m. And the flight goes in here a little after 11 p.m., so you're not allowed to be on the road. And so as the country opens up more and more local businesses and entities get certified, because every operation that's involved in tourism has to be trained and certified before they can reopen. As that happens, the curfews get relaxed a little bit more, and by the time we get to October, most of the properties will be open. I would imagine by then, hopefully, we would have mitigated against any spikes or any resurgence of the disease.
Sure.
And you will then see that maybe some of the rules are relaxed slightly as we mitigate against the situation and keep things under control.
Yeah.
When we started the lockdown, you know, it was very, very limited, very restrictive. But as we eased those lockdowns in step with our ability to contain the community spread of COVID-19, it goes hand in hand and lockstep with each. So we look forward to October. This first phase is now until September, but by October, the season normally starts as well. It's the fall season. People are looking for booking vacations, you know, for on their holidays, for coming up for winter. And so we see that as an opportunity for us as well to slowly build the industry back to where it belongs. And that will coincide as well with some of the schedules that we receive from some of our airline partners as to when they hope to resume service to Antigua and Barbuda.
Yes, and I'm sure as we hear of more services taking off, we'll definitely let everybody know through our newsletters that we run practically daily now. So you said a funny thing to me, at least maybe I didn't hear it completely right, but I'm sure you said you've got sneeze guards at the airport. Did I hear that right?
Yeah.
What is a sneeze guard?
It's just the panel that you have.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So if you see the other person on the other end doesn't get it.
Got you. Yeah. We've got them in the supermarkets here, but I've never heard of the term sneeze guard.
I've heard they've been being called sneeze guards.
Right. So okay. I'm now going to call them sneeze guard.
You know, it doesn't get across that barrier.
I wasn't sure whether you had to somehow grab something quickly and go, achoo! And then I don't know, where do I put it? Anyway, so that's really funny. So you've got 365 beaches to dream about in your Paradise Islands. So you mentioned you might not have to wear masks on the beach unless you're talking to staff, which is obviously very sensible. Can you go to each of the beaches? If I wanted to spend a year in Antigua, could I go around to each one each day?
Absolutely. We would encourage you to do that. You know, if it's a leap year that you're here, we'll just...
Oh yeah, even better.
we're very proud of the beaches that we have. They're beautiful pink and white sand beaches. Many of our beaches have won awards as some of the most breathtaking, most beautiful beaches on the planet. Half Moon Bay, which is like crescent shaped as a half moon, has been spectacular and has been recognized around the world, as well as Princess Diana Beach, which is named after Princess Diana in Barbuda. That is 17 miles of unbroken pink sand.
Wow.
And she used to vacation with Prince William and Prince Harry. And we're particularly proud it's been renamed in her honor, and very popular with Brits. And there's a little bar there, Uncle Roddy's, and he has photographs of Diana and the boys when they were kids, when they used to come to Barbuda. So we're particularly pleased that because we have 365 beaches, it lends itself naturally to social spacing, social distancing. You'll never find a perfect beach in Antigua. And even as we have looked at the sentiment analysis as to what the post-COVID traveler or visitor is looking for, they're looking for space. They're looking for a place where they're not crowded, where they're not packed in like sardines on each other. And our beaches are a natural fit for that type of aspirational type of holiday that the traveler is going to be looking for. Additionally, and Patrice can go into a little bit more detail, our hotels lend themselves to that. A lot of our hotels are low-rise, boutique type hotels where you have your little individual room or villa where you're not, going through a crowded corridor passing people every day. So you can literally, what better place would you like to be quarantined or isolated? But
on a beach.
And you have your own room service, you have everything. And so we see that as travel resumes and what people are looking for will change. The mass market, type of cheap holiday, so to speak, is something that you won't see come back right now. People looking for some place where number one, safety is going to be important. They don't want to go anywhere where they will be sick. They want to go someplace where they can get value for money. And I think as a long haul destination, the reason why Antigua and Barbuda is Virgin put out, I think, a list of 26 countries that they're flying to. We were right at the top of the list. It tells you something that the type of visitor, aspirational, premium type of traveler, which is good business for us and also for our travel partners who book vacations and book holidays, is ideally suited to the destination that we have. So we're particularly pleased that we opened early, we opened in a safe manner, and we just can't wait for the Brits to start those flights again so that we can have you back here on your holidays.
Yes, you sound very, very prepared, and that's what it's all about. It's giving confidence to the trade, of course, which is what we're explaining today, exactly how you're doing this, which will then engender confidence in the travellers and the guests to come over to your lovely islands. So talking about the trade then, how do you sort of plan to inspire them further? We used to do fam trips and this sort of thing. Are we going to see a return to fam trips or
sure, we will.
incentives and things?
I'll let Cherie jump in here or Joel and have a go at that one. But absolutely, I mean, seeing is believing, and when you experience something firsthand, you're better able to sell it, and that has been one of our strong selling points. But I'll let them go in a little bit more detail about what we have.
Yes. Okay, Cherie or Joel, do you want to take that one?
Well, I think, just to reiterate what Colin said, I think on the back of COVID-19 and numerous Zoom calls and webinars, and as good as they are, I think there's nothing better than actually going to the destination, experiencing the destination, seeing the product firsthand. And as soon as it is safe to do so, we will be ramping up our fam trips. I think as well, what has been missing throughout the entire COVID is actually, communicating and, interacting with your peers and your industry colleagues. So as soon as it is safe to do so, that will be high on our agenda. There'll be no more, webinars. We will take those deserving agents to the destination to actually see the product and to see some of the changes that we have implemented in destination.
Yes, I'm sure many will look forward to that as well. So that's wonderful. Great. Okay, so it'd be good to talk to Patrice and hear from you really how the hotels are faring in Antigua and Barbuda, especially in the midst of COVID-19. Perhaps it was fortuitous that many would shut normally anyway, but I'll leave that to you to explain to me what's fortuitous and what isn't in terms of the season of this horrible bug out there.
Well, good afternoon, good morning from Antigua. I'm actually in Antigua, so really happy to be here with you.
Good morning. Yes.
Well, by the 26th of March, we had just about every resort on Antigua and Barbuda closed. There are some passengers that decided, or some guests who decided to weather it out with us for a few weeks. But virtually all resorts were closed, and it went from a situation of a slowed booking process to a huge cancellation, which I'm sure we all experienced, and then to ultimate closure. And of course, we had repatriation flights. So we have, over 5,000 employees in the industry that have been laid off. But we are very positive now in that we have begun the reopening process. Within membership of the Antigua and Barbuda Hotels and Tourism Association, we have 34 of our major resorts. Of those, 9 resorts are now open, hotel resorts are now open. And they have only opened because they have adhered to some very stringent guidelines that have been set forth to ensure that they are certified to operate in the new environment. We talk about the new normal, we make that phrase a constant part of what we're doing right now. And yes, hotels traditionally had to be, evaluated on an annual basis. HACCP guidelines were a huge part of the operation of any resort. But of course, we had to look at what an enhanced environment looks like in terms of health and safety.
Indeed, absolutely.
We had a core group of hoteliers who came together, as well as persons who offer training within the industry. And they put together some core guidelines that look at the entire operation of the property. And of course, the Ministry of Health and the Ministry of Tourism had to review those guidelines to ensure that we're in keeping with the island's health and safety guideline as well. And it's only through that process, through the inspection process by the Ministry of Health and the Ministry of Tourism, that these 9 resorts are now open and are operating today. And I'll go through them shortly because I'm sure everyone's like, who are those 9 resorts?
Yes, exactly. That's got to be the next question.
Yeah. And also, in the month of July, we have an additional 3 hotels that will come on stream. Now, 50% of our membership currently have put it to be confirmed. And we know that can change in an instant. This environment has really taught us that, a minute is definitely a week. So even though we do report some resorts here today, it could change by the close of business or certainly by tomorrow. Because as hotels become comfortable with the guidelines as they're inspected and they see the demand for the destination coming back, certainly opening dates will change.
That's fabulous.
Yes.
So things that have been put into place, if perhaps just walk through in order to get registered or, certified that the hotel is fine to reopen. What you mentioned training as being one of them, but it just explains some of the measures that have been put in place.
Sure. When I look at the measures, I look at 3 different categories of requirements that would have to be in place for the hotel to open. And the first would be the employees. At the end of the day, we have to ensure this health and safety of the employees on resort. And yes, hotels are certified to operate, but they also cannot open until the staff are also certified and trained. So to date, we have 600 employees across those 9 properties that have already been trained. They've gone through testing and all the requirements that are needed for them to be employed within the operation, okay? And that training is continuous, and that training is also administered by the Ministries of Health and also Tourism. Okay. One of the things we've actually introduced to the hotels and for the employees is that there is a health evaluation that the employees will do on a daily basis. So we have one resort that's currently open, which is the Hodges Bay Resort, that there is actually an online assessment form that you have to complete. At the end of it, it actually gives you a color-coded result as to whether or not you should report to work or not. So it would ask questions about if you have a temperature, if you're sneezing, all of the typical questions that would go along with symptoms related to COVID-19. And we also gave a generic link as well to all the other hotels so that they too can ensure that employees are assessing themselves before they come into work.
Great. So if you kind of walk through what it would be like now as a traveller to come through and to check in and just generally going around the hotel, what sort of measures have been put in place?
All right, so the second requirement would be the guests and what's expected. Now, there is an intensive screening that happens at the airports, and Colin would have gone through that.
Yes.
From the health declaration one that must be completed through the standard port health requirements. But once on resort, there is a secondary screening that happens. So there is a temperature check and so on that happens when the guests arrive to the hotel. The handling of baggage, that's a whole other requirement as well that goes into place, and the guests would have already undergone that just entering the taxi cab. In reducing the guest touch points, you won't necessarily have to go to the front desk, right? So we're reducing the contact time between the guests and the hotel employees, where you simply go off to your room because there are online check-in options at most hotels now or are being implemented. One of the great things that's been implemented, not specifically listed in our guidelines, but I'm just really proud of the hotels that have gone above and beyond to ensure the health and safety of everyone, is that once your room is cleaned and sanitized, there's actually a seal that's placed on your door, and that seal is not broken until the guest enters the room, right? So you're guaranteed that no one's actually touching that room before you get there. And quite a few resorts have started to implement that because it just is a surety and a guarantee for the guests that their rooms are, you know, in the best and healthy, clean environment that they can be in for the duration of their stay. We did mention masks. It's a not, you know, I got on the meeting and I'm like, you know, Patrice, remember to take your mask off before we start talking. Because it's typically just hanging right here and ready to seal off and go. We have had loads of questions about masks, so I'm just going to state it as a guideline has it, that face masks must be available and offered to guests who are without. Guests are encouraged to wear a face covering when traversing the property where they are likely to be in close proximity to staff and other guests. So if you're at the pool lounge, we don't expect your mask to be on, but if you're getting up and going to the front desk to ask a question of the staff, then yes, the mask will be worn. For beach activities where physical distancing requirements are met, the wearing of a face covering would not be required. However, for employees of the resort, they must have their mask on at all times.
Wonderful. So that could get quite hot for them, couldn't it?
Sorry?
Quite hot, couldn't it? Always having your mask on.
Well, one of the things that we've had to employ really is your break time, because it's not advisable as well for the mask to be worn for longer than 4 hours at a time. So even our graduating students have gone back to school and they can't be in the classroom for more than an hour and a half at a time, or 4 hours for the entire day. So we have taken from that cue from the Ministry of Health as well to ensure that when the staff are also operating, that they have opportunities as well to have those types of breaks.
Yes, that is very good. So you mentioned 9 hotels were open, which is brilliant. How many hotels are there altogether? I couldn't. That should be a fun question. Who can guess how many hotels in Antigua? And what sort of be a phased approach to opening in October? I think Colin kind of mentioned a little bit of that, but do you want to elaborate a bit more on that?
Yeah, within the association, we have 34 registered hotels. We have 1 major hotel as well, which is a part of our membership, which is the Royalton. So we can say 35 major hotels. However, Antigua does have a wide selection of villas and Airbnb type properties as well that are available for persons to book. So the ones that we would be reporting on are those that have been registered to the association. And of those 9 properties, they include the Admiral's Inn at Gunpowder Suites, Antigua Village, which is a villa type property, Buccaneer Beach Club, Heritage Hotel, Hodges Bay Resort, Tamarind Hills, Hammock Cove, Sandals Grand Antigua, and Siboney Beach Club. And Colin would have alluded to it earlier, and we're asked the questions, are there restrictions on how many rooms are available in each property so persons don't feel as if they're crowded or overrun? And I have to say that the resorts in Antigua are so well appointed. Even at a Sandals, which is the largest of the properties that are open, I don't think you can deny yourself a space on Dickinson Bay, just to ensure that you do have the proper social distancing, because it is a beautiful stretch of beach, and we are just located in the most ideal way to ensure the safety of everyone.
Fabulous.
And also in the months of July, we will see the return of Cocoa Bay Resort and Coco's Hotel and a small intimate property called the Villas at Sunset Lane. So as I said, that could change overnight, but we're looking forward to seeing the properties come back on stream.
Fabulous. Now, I know Antigua is really famed for being also a wedding destination, and many couples have had to put off their plans, which has just been very heartbreaking for many, I'm sure. So your 9 that are open, are they catering for weddings as well? And the ones coming to be open, I'm sure, would be, but is there any immediately that you can think of, any desperate couples out there?
Yeah. Actually, when we started putting the guidelines in place and we were like, would guests be allowed off property and so on, I immediately got a call from a wedding organizer. It's like, I have a wedding coming in June, how is this going to happen?
Yeah.
And yes, the weddings are still in play. I know we had a bride come in on the first weekend with her gown and everything in tow to have her destination wedding. However, we do have to be guided by the Ministry of Health protocol, which is that the wedding must consist of 25 persons or less. So that's our limit in terms of gatherings. All right, so it's a maximum of 25 persons. And you do have to complete your legal documents at the Ministry of Legal Affairs. And that can happen where the guests will come off property to go into the legal office, of course, adhering to all of the social distancing and guidelines that will exist within that ministry when they go to sign off on their documents, etc. So we are open as a romance destination, of course, for weddings, and the hotels are prepared to welcome the bride and groom and their party.
That's fabulous news. Very good indeed.
So, if I may,
yes.
Julia, just to add a little to what Cherie said, that the Ministry of Legal Affairs have now agreed as well that they will send those marriage officers to the property to get the declaration signed in the event that the guest is still at the hotel waiting for their test results. They will actually come out to you to get your collect your signature on your document. So there's nothing stopping you at all from coming and getting married as you normally would.
Fabulous. That's really, really good. Well, I know that while we've all been speaking, there's been quite a lot of comments and questions that I think Joel has been answering as well. But Joel, are there any questions that have come up that you'd like to sort of talk about, or any that we've missed?
Yes, there's one, and put this one to Colin. How are conversations with cruise lines progressing? Do you have any thoughts on when cruise ships will return to Antigua?
Yeah, they're progressing very well. The thing is with the cruise lines is that they have been hit particularly hard. So they have a significant, almost like a PR battle to overcome. And they are in serious discussions with the Centers for Disease Control as to the protocols. I'm talking about the American cruise lines in particular that will govern the ships, how they handle and circulate the air, how they have their sanitization processes for the ships. So they are undergoing much more stringent requirements to even start cruising again. One of the things that we foresee with the cruise industry as well is that you will probably have to have a test declaring that you are COVID-free before you're even allowed to board the cruise vessel. So once those sort of protocols are in place so that you can minimize any disease coming in, I think the cruise ship passengers, because of the sheer volumes that will be coming, will resume. But I don't foresee that happening before the cruise ship season picks up in October also. They have, as I indicated, they have been really hit hard. At this time of the year, the cruise ships would normally be in the Mediterranean, and then they come out to the Caribbean in October. And so we don't foresee our cruise season really starting again in any significant volumes until October.
That is sad, but hopefully antibody testing will start to sort of gain momentum. And then I think once you can see who's already had this disease, because there's also a lot of people that have it very mildly, then there'll be more confidence in traveling and mixing as we move forward. So I'm looking forward to antibody testing getting moving. That's just my little take on it.
Yeah.
So Joel, any other questions?
We've covered all of those, and the ones were about masks for guests, and Colin replied, you provided a mask as you disembark the aircraft, and if you don't have one, additionally, all hotels will be providing masks for their guests. So you're pretty covered there for the questions for now.
Sounds perfect. Right, is there anything else that any of the panel would like to mention that perhaps I haven't given them an opportunity to say?
One other thing, we have the visit Antigua Barbuda.com website has all the details with regards to the protocols, frequently asked questions. There's also, even from the Ministry of Health, a QPR code that you can click on, which allows you to fill a form out, a pre-registration form, basically saying where you'll be staying, your name, address, so that they can properly, and particularly for returning residents, determine where you will be staying for your 14-day quarantine. If your home is suitable, that's the first option. They allow you to stay at home for the 14 days. If you in a place where you might not have a separate bathroom, a separate bedroom to home quarantine, then they will be asked to stay at the facility. But it's a hotel. For those of you who know Antigua, the Hawksbill Hotel, that's the government facility that's being used for quarantine. So for a lot of folks who have been there, they tend not to want to leave. They're on the beach, they get fed 3 meals a day, and you know, they have a second holiday when they return home. But it's been going well, and I think we have been managing the risk quite well. That my phone has been ringing off the hook from my colleagues in the other islands. How are you doing? How did you do this? And you know, so we're happy to share that, and happy to ensure that we not only just thought leaders, but we are leading the pack and leading the entire region as a very small destination as to how you can do this and how you can do this safely. And I think it's remarkable when you consider how this disease has so ravaged and impacted the world, and particularly the more larger industrialized countries, and how tiny Caribbean islands have been able to really pull together and to snuff it out and to contain it and to manage those risks. I think that's a remarkable achievement. I mean, there's some islands who have had no fatalities. You know, that's testimony to how vigilant and we were, but also to how cooperative our citizens were. I mean, I see the challenge in some of the other countries where people are saying it's their right not to wear a mask, and so they're not going to put it on. But once you get here, you are required to wear it.
Yes, you better behave.
You better behave yourself. You're out in public, and you know, people pull you up if you go to supermarkets or you go to a restaurant and you see a sign, no mask, no food. You don't get served. You don't put the mask on. So, and all the statistics have shown that people who wear masks, in countries where that's done in a large percentage of the population, that the community spread and the rate of infection has really dropped to the floor. So we encourage folks, if you're traveling from the UK for your holiday and you haven't been wearing a mask, we can give you all sizes, all colors. It's a fashion statement now. So if you don't have one, we'll get one for you.
Absolutely.
And lastly, Colin, one question. Are there any information on flights from Germany? So maybe you can just go over the flights we have from London and mainland Europe and connections.
Yeah, right now, British Airways was originally to come on the 19th of July, but they pushed that back until August for the reasons I gave earlier. Virgin, and BA is still coming out of London Gatwick. Virgin will resume in August. They haven't finalized the date yet, but they told us it would be most likely in August. And based on the fact that they are competitors, I imagine they will both be starting around the same time. BA will start with 2 flights per week. Virgin will start with 1 weekly service. However, Virgin service will originate out of London Heathrow, which is a good news for us because that automatically then it opens up the European market. And for those folks who can connect to London Heathrow same day, you will be able to travel and connect same day to Antigua, or same day travel. So that's good news. With regards to Germany and Italy, our Italian charter will resume in November, which is the early word that we've had. We haven't had a date yet, but by then we imagine most of our hotels would be open and we would be in a better position to be by then in the second phase of our opening. Our German service, we did not have it this past winter season, as Conda went through a whole series of restructuring and downsizing and rationalization of the routes. But we foresee, as well as the destinations opens up and the German carriers are looking for destinations, we are top of the list as to the type of destination that they will be able to travel to. who would have had a track record of working and being open in the post-COVID era, and also one where they can expect to get a good rate of return on the investment of flying to the Caribbean. So we foresee that our European lift, mainland Europe, will come back as well. But in the meantime, being able to travel from London Heathrow will allow same-day connection from almost any major city in Europe. On the other side, the North American side, we have American now with one daily flight. That's going to be from July. It goes back to the regular timing where it gets in here in the afternoon and turns around and leaves same day. From July as well, every Thursday and Sunday from the 2nd, JetBlue will start resuming service from JFK, New York. Delta will resume service from Atlanta on Saturdays. The Canadian carriers, we're still waiting to have confirmation, but they hope to be back flying as well sometime either mid-July to the beginning of August as they open their borders. Canada is still very much in lockdown, and so we're waiting news from that side as to how soon they'll try traveling south. But I mean, we're open, and you have to start somewhere. And I think there's a lot of fear still in the industry, but as destinations such as Antigua and Barbuda open in a phased approach and keep doing it well so that we mitigate against the spread of disease, we see that people will be traveling, will be coming back. All the sentiment analysis shows us that people have been cooped up for far too long. There's some people who just can't wait to get out of the UK and get to some place beautiful, a beautiful beach, and really have a great holiday. And so we're looking forward to welcoming them. And I really, really want to thank those folks on the call, all our travel agents. We have 34 participants from Europe and from the UK. You guys do a remarkable job for us, and we appreciate the support over the years, and even more so now as we open up for you to help us to get the word out to your clients and your passengers, and to the folks who want to travel, that Antigua is open and we're ready to receive you in a safe manner.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much, Colin, and to all of you on the panel for participating in Destination Unlock, woohoo, and being the very first destination for OTT in any case to sort of say we are so open for business and hashtag pack your bags. So really, really appreciate that. For more information about Antigua and Barbuda, if you haven't already done so, do go to the OTT website where you will find their course and you can learn even more about Antigua. The COVID top tab will keep you up to date. I'm sure it might link through to the main website that you were just talking about, Colin, which is a really important resource for everybody. And I too would like to thank everybody for your time today in joining us and the Paradise Islands of Antigua and Barbuda. And I hope you welcome many, many travellers to this beautiful destination. And I think I'm going to be hashtag packing my bags pretty soon too. So
we're looking forward to having you.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much again. And it's bye-bye from me, from OTT. And goodbye to all of the panelists and to everybody out there as well. Thank you so much for participating. And good luck. And keep well.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.